Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Consciousness with your luscious hostess, May Vu, broadcasting live every Monday at 12 noon Pacific Time.
Hello, everyone. This is May. I am so excited. I say this every show. I'm so excited to be here because I am. And today is especially exciting because it's part two of my previous show that I did 2 weeks ago called I Want More Sex. I knew this topic would be a hot topic for us to cover, and in 2 weeks, that show has gotten over 2,500 archive listens. That's a pretty high numbers for me. Anyway, so I'm really excited to be talking about this and then carrying it to the next level with my three guests today. But before we go there, I wanted to introduce you to my new product. I have the latest coaching service that I'm offering to our Sex, Lies, and Consciousness community. Are you over 40 and are you having to date again? Or how I like to say it, do you get to date again? How exciting. Well, is it exciting for you or is it scary or confusing? Well, let me help, however it is. For over a decade now, I have been coaching one-on-one clients at a premium price on how to successfully be at dating and expanding their passion and sexual exploration. And now we can do it together. I'm offering the first 20 SLC members a forever price of $29.95 per month to get into our weekly group coaching time on dating and relationship with me. You know, like the forever stamp price, you are grandfathered in for life as a member of SLC community. Along with the dating and relationship coaching, you will get tons of benefits as we continue to grow and offer goodies to our members only. So go to sexliesandconsciousness.com, the website, and then sign up today. Alrighty? Okay, so let's bring in our guests for today. You have heard these three guests before on previous shows, and I have with me today the unsatiable Julie Ward.
Julie. Unsatiable. I thought it was supposed to be insatiable. Thank you for that introduction.
Last year, Julie shared with us her heroic story of rebounding from being a rape victim and thriving. And also, she was on another show, which is one of our fans' favorite, called Blowjobs Are Like Getting Roses for Men. Julie's partner in crime, and you can hear his chuckle there, is Chris St. John. Chris is also here today. Chris is hot. He's hot. He's a hot man, a hot father, a hot partner, spouse, and coach. And he's here today to entice us with his views on how to cultivate more sex with your partner.
Thanks,
and
Mike.
Last but not least, I have with us Pat Barone. Pat is also a returning guest, and she was here last year talking about food and sex, a complicated relationship. Mm-hmm. Pat and I are going to be speaking together at the International Coaches Federation Midwest Conference in June of this year on sex, lies, and consciousness, busting boundaries. So, woohoo, Pat, welcome.
Hi, May. How are you?
I am really good, and I'm excited about this topic today. I love for us to dive in some more about the subject of how do we get more sex, or how do we be with each other around this place of one person in the partnership always end up wanting more sex than the other.
Right.
So it's complicated, and it's touching and it's tender. It's just painful for both sides, for the men and for the woman and for the couple, for the relationship.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So why don't we just jump in and share your why don't you do a quick introduction of yourself and then share your relationship to this topic, this human condition. Pat, go ahead. I have to pick your name.
I'll jump in. Okay. Well, I've been coaching, as you mentioned. I've been coaching weight loss for a number of years, about 12 years, and it's a topic that I go into rather deeply with my clients. And I have seen through the years this become a big theme in my coaching is that a lot of my clients redirect their sex lives, or their sex drives, I should say, into food. And when they're unsatisfied, they simply eat. They get some sensual pleasure from it sometimes. It has a great tamping down effect on a sexual chakra when your belly is full of food. It's a really common topic for me. Next time you want sex, go eat a bunch of crappy food and just notice where those feelings go. Those desires can just get ground out so quickly. So I had experienced or heard about this particular topic from my clients for years, but I never thought that I would be on the other side of it. And one of the things that I have learned from
and what does that mean, Pat? I've never known to be on the other side of it.
Yeah, I never thought that it would be a topic for me or my personal life.
Yeah.
Until more recently. And I think there is kind of a norm. This is coming off of the previous call from 2 weeks ago. I think there is kind of a norm in our society that men have the greater sex drive.
Yeah.
And yet I notice my female clients, when they have the greater sex drive in a relationship, wow, it turns everything upside down in a really funny way. Women are, it's almost a joke, isn't it, in our culture that that men have the greatest sex drive, that's what they're focused on, that they're the driver of sex in a relationship. Well, that's not always true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on the other side of that, women get a lot of messages in our society to be happy with what you have, to take care of everybody else first, that your needs come second. So for me personally, when I started a conversation about my needs, which were greater than my partner's, everything that I was sort of suspecting proved to be true. He was quite satisfied. I was not. We had kind of switched places in our relationship. It's funny, early on in our relationship, he had a greater drive. There was a little period of time in the middle when we were pretty much well-balanced, and then it flipped the other way. And I don't know how common that is, but, I'm sure that happens in relationships as well.
I think it's very common because, if we really think about it, we all grow every day. We all change and grow every day. And so our sex drives change and grow too, and for some reason when we were taught about our sex and marriage and relationship, we never talk about that. We never anticipate that. And it seems to be like there's something terribly wrong if that's what's happening. So that's a myth or a belief that we have in our psyche or something.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, Pat. Let me bring in Julie and Chris, and let's hear their stories, and then we can just have a collective conversation.
All right.
Julie?
I'll go next. So just to introduce myself, I'm a relationship coach, and I primarily work with women and couples around developing their intimate relationships with themselves and with their partners. More all in service of family. I'm really a stand that marriages can work if people had the right tools to do what they needed to do. And so that's where I come in with a variety of different tools and modalities to help them understand and maybe pull apart what's going on so they can build it back together and get reconnected in a healthy way. So that's what I do as a profession. And I guess I was called into it more because of my journey in life and around my own relationships and intimacy and things along that line. And where I'm at, the value add that I have to this conversation is I've got a high sex drive. I've got a high sex drive, and yet in a long-term relationship, I'm the one that's withheld the sex. So even though I've got the desire and the inclination and everything like that, there were moments in relationship where it was like, not tonight, honey. I'm too tired, or I'm the I'm too tired is one of the excuses, but there was a lot of other emotional things behind that. And it was like, after having really great sex, it was like, I remember my partner once saying, he says, so why don't we do this more often? And I'm like laying there in la la land going, I'm not quite sure why not. So I know the why not now.
And why not? and what is the why not?
And why not? Okay, the why not from those experiences were holding on to a lot of resentment. There was a lot of resentment, so emotionally not being connected with my partner.
Yeah.
Okay, and thinking, and the collapses, it's funny that once, having gotten connected and having sex, having really intimate, great sex with my partner, a lot of the resentment and the things that seemed significant beforehand when I was saying no disappeared. So here I am after the fact, laying in my lover's arms going, why am I not doing this more often? This is like awesome. And why was I withholding? They just literally dissolved into nothingness. But on the front side, it was like, no, I'm not in it because I'm not in the mood.
Yeah, well, it takes I don't know about you, but I know for myself, being so out there doing so many things and always on the go and always producing and supporting and serving and all this stuff, it takes me a while to really let go, let down, and really surrender into that place and then go. I have the same experience. I have really great sex with my partner, but I'm like, why don't I do this more often? Really, it's really me. It's not him. And anyway, I have.
Yeah. Well, and May, another insight on that, I'm just going to add that in, is like one of the things that helped me was being able to understand how I had to relax into and allow my partner to bring pleasure to me and to help me. I had to get clear with him and be able to have that another level of intimacy of being able to state what I needed. In those moments and say, what I need right now, I've got so much tension in my body. I need you to touch me in ways that are just going to physically release, like a massage, and just let me sink into my body and let me be here so I can get out of my head and all the noise and everything and be with you. So I had to teach him and explain myself to him in such a way that he could then give me, because he wasn't a mind reader. He didn't know.
Yep.
Right? So I had to, and it was a place of vulnerability to be able to say, well, you know what I need, and for him to be able to then be able to give that to me so that I could join him there.
Yep.
And it
Chris, come on in, honey.
Yeah.
So that you can balance us out.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I also work as a relationship coach, and I partnered with Julie a little bit, and we do some work with couples. And the opposite of Julie, a lot of my work is with men, run some men's groups and different things like that. And I focus, my focus is mainly in connection with couples, as Pat spoke about earlier, about, people turning to things to avoid, maybe it's intimacy, sex, whatever it is. But I find the first thing that falls off with couples in relationship when they get disconnected is their physical connection. Part of that sex, and I think part of that is just, touching and kissing and holding each other and being there together too. And, myself, I've been with my wife since I was 12, so we've been through lots of things and, ups and downs, but I've always been, I think we would both agree, if my wife was on the call too, she would agree that I've always been the one who's had the stronger sex drive in the relationship. And, so it's been, there's been lots of things happening back and forth between us, some of them conversations and other things, just finding out, what has her relaxed, as Julie spoke about, what sometimes women just need to relax. She'll often say to me, I'm just really stressed right now. Okay. And so I might offer, okay, so how can I help? How can I help? Whatever that is, whether it's, putting one of the kids to bed, or not that it's her job, but it's our job. But how can I help? Like, how can I help you? And it may be just something as simple, some letters that are downstairs really need to be dumped in the mailbox. And you know, I find with you know, we were talking about norms, you know, and when it's not happening, maybe the women put a little more focus into the kids, and the men sometimes put a lot of focus into work.
Yep.
So, and it's not always work, but, you know, as Pat spoke about, you know, notice the feelings that come up. What are you avoiding? What's happening over there? So I think the perspective as I bring is we've been able to work it through. And I must admit, my drive for connection is much higher than my wife's. Like it's a lot higher. So, and we've been able to, you know, work it through. But it's been, you know, finding a safe place for me to say how I feel and a place for her to listen and hear me, like really hear me. It doesn't mean she always says, okay, let's go, but this is what I need too. So, you know, if you want more of me, I need a little more of you, and this is where I need you. So
this is so interesting. You said this phrase that really cut my ears. Is like my drive for connection, and and fascinating because I hear. It was fascinating to me because I'm like, oh shoot, that's what it's like for him. That's his drive for connection. And what a lot of women or a lot of couples that have come to me, you know, that message doesn't get communicated. It's more my drive for sex.
Right.
It is higher than hers or his. And when I hear it as my drive for sex, it sounds more like a takeaway, a take from, you know. But my drive for connection, I was like, oh, shoot, I didn't know. If that's your drive for connection, I can meet you there, you know. But when it's like your drive for sex, it seems like then I want to withhold and I want to, like, pull back and I go, oh, what you going to do to me, you know, kind of thing. So it's a very interesting, is it a synonym or is it a dichotomy? I don't know what this is, but I think it's important for people to, like, get that clear or communicate it in their relationship.
Absolutely. And I think if, you know, this is, you know, it's a hot topic as you spoke, you know, it's a hot topic for people in general, for couples. But I think it's, you know, my wife and I were up last week talking about it pretty late, and you know, we were talking about what's important to her, you know, in our relationship, and what's important to me. Like, what are the things that I really, you know, there's, I think in all relationships, there are some must-haves. Like, I really need this to stay in this kind of thing. And I was telling her, you know, what's important to her is important to me.
Yeah.
You know, what's really important to her, it needs to be really important to me. And I think my job, I think my responsibility as her partner is to support her, not doing it for her, but support her in getting that. So that looks like, you know, what do you need from me in order for you to have that? Because if I can allow her to be in a space where she can relax and be herself and be, you know, really relax, then I'll you know, I'm confident that I'll get more of her.
Yeah.
That might not always be sex, but I'm about connection. So kisses and hugs, and that's real good for me too, you know.
Yeah. I somehow the age thing just came in. I'm thinking that all of us are over 40s, right, on this call.
I am. Yep.
Okay. So I think we're talking about that differently. Like I think when people are in their 20s, you know, somehow it feels different. Like I'm thinking of this particular guest that called in on my show, and he's in his 20s, and as much somehow it just feels different. It doesn't have the same space and patience in there. So I wonder how age plays in this.
Oh, I think it. I don't think I would have been saying this at 20, May.
Thank you. That's really validating.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Don't think I. It's funny. A friend of mine who's 61. He was saying to me, you know, I wish I could be 40 again. I said, if you had to give back the wisdom and all the things you've learned, would you really want to be 40 again? Because I'm 41. He said, no.
But 40 and 20-something, there's a big gap, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I've always looked, I've always looked to, you know, men who are a little more experienced than me because, you know, they've been around the block a few times. And you can learn a lot from people who, you know, not everybody, but but a lot. But you make a good point. I definitely wouldn't have said this at 20 years old. It would have been about now, I want it now, and this is how I want it, and this is what it looks like. The patience wouldn't have been there.
Now I think about another person that I know, and he's in his 70s, and he's want it now, and it's a different sense of urgency too, because now he has a different whack out thing, which is I'm near, the end of my road. I want good sex now, and there's a different level of insistence in there also.
I think it's about. Sorry, Julie.
Yeah. And I think also the definition of what good sex is, we could all right now define in our 40s what good sex is for us, which would have been different than what good sex was for us when we were in our 20s or our 30s. Our needs for good sex vary as we go through life because of biological function as well, the need to have children, to come together just for the sake of reproduction, which is the driving force when we're younger.
I think too. You know what, May? That's you make a really good point around this. This young fella, and I think at 20, I think I would have. You spoke about earlier about taking, right? Like wanting something. Sex for me, I think at 20 would have been about me getting something. I don't quite see it that way anymore. It's more about giving. Like I want to give of myself. I don't know if that makes. I definitely. I mean, it's not like I'm all. I'm here to give. I'm definitely here to give too. But it's a little bit of a mindset shift, right? It's it's like a great relationship, right? I think the definition of a great relationship is find out what the other person wants and give it to them.
Yep. So, Pat, let's bring you in here, Tani. I want to hear more from this place of being the woman and wanting more sex, because I could meet you in this space also. It's just like it's a really painful place. Anyway. I want to capture that voice of the woman's side wanting more sex from your man, and the man is, I don't know, dull and numb to it, or not interested, or negative about it.
Well, and this kind of comes off the conversation that we were just having about, age and different things. It's sort of bittersweet in a lot of ways, May, because one of the things that you didn't mention that I think also happens is that people grow and change. Mm-hmm. And over the last, as I've healed myself from food addiction and I've deepened into my life and I've really opened up my own self-knowledge and my own being with myself, as I've grown into all of that, then it's interesting that my sex drive is something that I've accepted, and it feels very natural to me. It's kind of like you clear out the cobwebs, you clear out all the junk from when you're in your 20s and your 30s, all the mind games, all the things that you learn and the things that you were conditioned into. And so it's sort of a bittersweet thing to really drop into yourself, to know yourself well, to get to know your needs, and then to find that it doesn't fit in your marriage. Right?
Right.
Because
how painful is that, right?
You're in all of this delicious place with yourself. Yeah. And then you realize, it doesn't jive anymore. Yeah. And my partner is in a place where he's kind of going into a different direction, and he has a mindset that he's getting older.
Yeah.
And he's really holding on tight to that. That's how he believes things work. And it's the opposite for me. I feel I'm opening up, and it's just
like you're blossoming. I'm like, I'm getting younger and more vital, and oh my God, I'm thriving.
Absolutely. I mean, that's entirely what's happening. So it's just a really bittersweet kind of a feeling when you start to realize that. What's been good about it for me, May, is to absolutely be honest and truthful about my needs. And that, to me, has been the real growth and learning. Even from a difficult situation, there's always some kind of growth and learning there, and I'm really being very accepting of my needs, and I'm also being very open and vocal about them. Mm-hmm. And so that has been a real learning for me.
Yeah, totally.
A real growth point.
It's such a such an interesting place, isn't it? It's like, how do you do this? How do you keep expressing what you want and not go to ultimatums, not go to controlling, not go to blaming, not go to, shaming him.
Not going to fix it or anything like that.
Right. Or not go to fixing yourself, not go to shaming yourself for wanting more sex and all this desire that's coming up. It's like to just really be in that place of what is. It's so fascinating.
And I must have said a million times to my clients, your needs are always valid.
Yeah.
Right? And yet, to be able to say that to yourself is, it's entirely different. It just feels so different to me.
Yeah. And I have a slightly different angle of this too, which is I'm with a man who I love and adore, and he loves and adores me, and we have great sex together. And you know what? I want more sex. I want to be able to fuck my crushes. Like, I got to a place now in life where sex isn't bad and wrong for me anymore. It's not a separation anymore. It's a union. It's a communing way of being for me. And when I can do that with anybody I want to, it opens me up and connects me to a much higher level of being in the world. And so when I have to shut that down to be the appropriate girlfriend in a monogamous relationship, it kills me. At some point, it kills me, and other point, I'm really thriving and I feel the safety and the security and all that stuff. But there's that other part of me. And to even talk about that and to stay in that conversation with him and love each other as we go through that, oh, my God, it's wild and crazy. Suddenly I feel like, does anybody have an answer for me? No.
Well, you know what? If Chris just chiming back in, it's something different, but it's similar to what Pat was saying, because you're finding yourself and comfortable with yourself, and then maybe it's not fitting in the relationship.
Yeah, you're finding your needs. It sounds like, man.
Really
expressing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why not? Why can't the relationship contain it? Why I see the possibilities and all this stuff. And at the same time, for me to learn to be in this and not be a victim of it. To be in it with full choice and to love every exquisite twist and turn of the story and not try to fix it, it's just so complex.
I've become very, I think I've become very unattached to what my relationship looks like.
Yeah.
Because I'm just sort of holding it very, very lightly, and I don't feel this great attachment to how it looks or how it develops or where it goes next, or, it's an interesting place to be, like you said.
Yeah.
But my unattached perspective is different than my partner's. Because he, kind of like you, he wants it to look like this particular shape and size and this type of relationship, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a good place you're in, though, Pat.
Oh, I
I
think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unattached. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it makes me think about this whole definition of marriage and how do we expand it? Does that mean that that's the wrong kind of marriage, or it feels like the containers of our life, of our relationship, need to expand and need to be renegotiated with love and care and acceptance and both sides. It's so
Yeah, well, I think, May, like one of the things that from the teachings that I've been getting around sacred intimacy and everything like that, there's this conversation about going wide versus going deep, and intimacy is a deepening, and what better place to go deep than with one person, and work the edge of our boundaries and our closures. When we go wide into other relationships or explore other venues like that, where there's not that depth. There's different flavors and there's different experiences, but the depth, that real intimate depth of what's available when two people really stay in the tension of working and being vulnerable to say, honey, I really need this, and to work through whatever comes up so that you can get to that other level is really, really sweet. And what I also know is that, us women, we can talk till the cows come home. And the feminine in us, which is the one that is desiring that depth, that opening up, that state of ecstatic bliss, that feminine doesn't necessarily, she's looking for that connection as well. But how we operate in our world is we use words so often, saying, honey, this is what I need, these are my needs, as opposed to showing, so not talking about it so much, especially in the bedroom. My thing is less words in the bedroom. One of the gifts a woman can give her man is her sounds, not her words.
Mm-hmm.
It's about appreciating and showing the man our energy in the feminine. That's what's attractive to men, and that's what's going to call them to want to come and connect with us more. So there's all kinds of different practices that women can take on to create that sexual zing, that zest, that polarity between two partners. And it means one playing real feminine and the other playing real masculine. But the thing is that it doesn't take, it's a conscious choice to say which role we're going to play and what energy we're going to take on, the feminine or the masculine. And a woman can take on the masculine, but then you're going to have to your partner's going to have to consciously want to be in his feminine.
But having access to both.
And having access to both. So, so even in the course of one artful lovemaking session, you could switch gears in the middle or halfway through or something.
Yeah.
So that's possible. But my thing is I really believe that women need to learn to express their feminine side if their man is a masculine man. In the bedroom especially. Not necessarily all over the place, but especially in the bedroom, if that's what's really women are wanting.
I really do agree with you, Julie. I'm working a lot with my clients on feminine energy, and especially when it comes to food and weight loss. I believe all of our weight loss in our culture is male-driven, so unnatural for women.
Right,
But what is that? How does that connect to the idea of expressing yourself when you need something more?
Well,
talk about that a little bit.
Well, about the communication, like actually saying what you need. I think that outside of the bedroom, way before you get in the bedroom, those conversations need to occur. And it's not about saying, honey, I need this, honey, I need that. The feminine is indirect, and a man will respond to the indirectness in an intimate relationship better. And how that could look, Pat, could be if you guys are watching a porn or a movie or something like that, and you go, oh, I really like this. That what they're doing there kind of turns me on. Or did you see that show and this happened? And so letting the man make the choice as to what he's going to bring to the equation, as opposed to you commanding or demanding, saying, honey, I want you to do this with me. Because that takes his masculine, you're in your masculine when you're directing your man.
So like Pat saying, be unattached.
Well,
unattached and non-directional.
Well, it's a very delicate place because I know what Julie is saying. Like I hear this in empowered women all the time, and it so does not get you what you want.
Exactly.
Women always say, get your voice and go ask your man to be the, tell him what you want. Like, you know what? Actually, that as well-meaning as that is, that actually gets in your way. If you want him to be masculine, you wear a dress.
That's right. And not necessarily literally. Yes and no.
Well, I'm just saying whatever structure that would get you there. You flip your hair. You do things that are feminine. Immediately, it just brings him out into the masculine. If you want him to take you surrender into his arms. Oh my God, that is so hard to do. It's a lot easier for us to stand there with our hands on our hip and going, I want you to take me more.
It's like,
all it does is freak the heck out of the poor guy, and he's like, I don't know how to take such a bull like you right now. And I've made many times. I'm like, oh, right, note to self.
You know, having coach, I coach a lot of men, as I said earlier, and I find that a lot of men, you know, it's interesting what you say around, you know, Julie, you bring the point around not direction, but I find that guys actually they need direction. Like we need direction, right? And maybe not being attached of how it comes, right? Like not exactly how you want it to come. But a lot of men, you know, get scared because I think, you know, as I work with men, they want to get it right.
Yeah.
Right? Like they want to get it right. So sometimes they're afraid to make any move because they want to get it right. And if they get it right, believe me, you couldn't be any harder on them than they are on themselves.
And this is the thing about conscious loving from the woman's side on that. If a guy were to touch you a certain way, and it's not 100% right, the response to encourage him is to embellish that and go, oh yeah, like make it bigger than it is, so he'll do more of that. Yeah,
or if he doesn't get it exactly right, just slide his hand to where you do want it and go, now that feels so good. Right.
Yeah. And you know what, Chris, I can remember years ago, like, you know, being in that position, and it was the most uncomfortable thing for me to actually, you know,
ask for what you want.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't. I didn't even have to use my words. I just had to move my body a little to get the position going right. You know,
but it's a physical asking, right?
It was a physical asking. It wasn't directing him by taking his hand and saying, "Here."
Mm-hmm. But I think the link to that is like,
dumbass.
Yeah, it was really gentle and always. But even for me, even to find the courage, and it took courage to say, okay, this isn't really to think, I'm in my head, this isn't working for me, and if he would just a little to the left would be good, you know, but it took a lot of courage for me to be able to even move my body to get pleasure for myself.
Yeah.
Without, you know, shaming him by saying, you're not doing it right, that's not working for me, you know.
As soon as you say that, he's going to go to
he's going to shrink.
Now we have to go back to the blowjobs, like getting roses for men to get it back up again.
We already did that show. They can go to the archives.
But you know what? It's worth saying. You got to worship that cog. You got to get, you know, talk about bringing. You want the man to take you. You surrender and get on your knees and kiss his cog and lick his balls, you know, and that's how he's gonna take you and do all these hot things for you.
Yeah,
not standing there and said, I need you to take me.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the thing is Chris touched on that earlier about giving. It is. It's this playful art of both just wanting to give of themselves, however that's expressed, for the pleasure of the other person, for that communion you spoke of, May.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, let me take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back, and we're going to bring this to more of like a how-to, you know, like some tips for all of us, for both men and women, both sides, so that we can cultivate each other, cultivate the relationship so that we can get more sex for ourselves.
Okay.
Is your marriage or relationship in crisis? Where one partner wants to expand into their sex and bring scary changes to the relationship, while the other partner is dug in, protective, and saying, no way in hell is this going to happen. May knows this place well, and she can help both sides. She is truly amazing. Learn more about her specialty, crisis coaching for couples and individuals, at sexliesandconsciousness.com.
Hello, we're back, and so we're talking about how do we get more sex? You know, how do we deal with this human condition? I call it that because it exists probably in every relationship out there at one time or another. No matter how much you love your partner or how much you checked out, it goes on. So how do we cultivate that between each other and with ourselves so that we can really bridge this gap, bring this desire much closer to each other. So do you want to start us off, Pat?
Well, I guess my focus has been to really accept what's going on for yourself and to drop into it. I think that I've found so many different ways to work with my sexual energy. It's been really fascinating. It's been kind of a challenge, right? Because you have a limited outlet going on. And there's so many sensual pursuits that you can follow. So I think that's been kind of an interesting avenue for me. I've definitely found things like ecstatic dance. I mean, who would have ever known that there was something called ecstatic dance? I mean, it's an incredible form of dancing. A lot of my yoga work and energy work has centered on sexuality and expression of sexuality. Just really learning to live and deepen down into your sexual energy and just hold it and have it is such a feminine, kind of like Julie was speaking of earlier, it's such a feminine trait, and something that women are really good at is, just sort of running that sexual energy for yourself.
Mm-hmm. I have a hard time with this one, Pat, because for me, I have a lifetime history of suppression, right? I mean, like I was married for 18 years. I didn't explore my sex because I wasn't ready and I wanted to be appropriate, so never really did much in my teens and 20s. And then I got married and he was my only partner. So then I had sex with him and it was good, and it wasn't, I didn't know how to express myself and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So then now I'm in my 40s, and I broke out of that marriage and gave myself 3 good years of like really exploring and having a great time and really reclaiming myself. And now I'm in another relationship, and my sexual energy is still really high and really want to explore, and not because I'm looking for a man but really the more I explore, the more of my own power I get. Mm-hmm. So I'm just but then for me to it feels like another fancy form of suppressing myself. Now I call it running the energy through me, sitting with it, meditating, breathing. I don't know. I'm suspicious.
Yeah, I don't find it suppressing at all. It's interesting. I found it really different than suppressing, but I do know that it's not actual, full-on expression, obviously.
Yeah, my belief is that it's when a man can take a woman and vice versa to a place sexually and spiritually, because I believe that moment of true communion is a spiritual. It's the closest we're going to get to God in this human life form. So the reason we come together in relationship is to magnify experiences. The same thing holds true with sex. And that culmination of getting to that place of sublime bliss, it requires the mirror. It requires the connection with a partner to attain that place. So there are practices that to build up our own warehouse of sexual energy that we can do, absolutely, and also to release that, and yet to have that holy communion, because that's how I hold sex.
Fucking.
And fucking, Well, there's fucking, which is fucking, and then there's that holy communion, right? And I believe we need all of it. We need all of those experiences and those expressions. So for me, with a partner, to get that, what it requires is all kinds of explorations and being vulnerable again and being open, standing your ground about what you need for yourself in your life, and not settling for anything less, and at the same time exploring it together and knowing that you're both in this together. And Chris said it. It's about giving. It's that level of conscious living, that we're giving what it is that we're wanting. So if we're wanting more sex, then we need to, I believe, this is my belief, and I could be, you take it with a grain of salt. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But I believe that if we give what we're looking for, what we're seeking. So if we're wanting more sexuality, then to bring that to the equation and to explore our edges about what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be, you know, like I've had couples, you know, write down fantasies and exchange fantasies, and it's like, okay, that's really edgy, and May, I know you do this too. That's really edgy, but you know what? We're in this together. Y'all try anything once type of an attitude, you know. So that, and it's edgy, but and everyone has a different edge, and to honor that. So what might be edgy for one person might be, oh, I have this bondage fantasy, and the other partner goes, well, okay, I'll let you use scarves, you know, like it's a start, right? It's an edge. So, but be willing to know that this relationship you're in is so sacred, so important that you're willing to keep giving more of yourself than you've ever given before, so you can grow.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's okay if I step in here?
Yeah, please.
All good. Yeah, you know, like I said, my wife and I have been together for a long time, 30, you know, plus, well, like 30, since we were kids, right?
Yeah.
And you know, so we've made this commitment to always work things through. But like Pat said earlier, you know, we're changing all the time, and so we've made this commitment. But who knows what's going to happen in 2 years? I mean, she could decide that, you know, this is just not working, and she wants something else. And so I think it's like, I think it was, I don't know who said it earlier, but giving yourself permission to say, you know what, this is okay. Like that I want this. This is okay, and not to go to the place of shaming yourself or making yourself wrong or curving what you really want and settling for what's there, but saying, you know what, this is okay for me to really want this. And to know what that you know what that means for you. I think until we really know, you know, ourselves, and we're able to give at least a piece of it to ourselves first, I don't know that we can really ask anybody else to give that to us for some, you know, give us something we can't give ourselves first.
Yeah, you know, I have a hard time with this one too, Chris. I just was thinking about this last night. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, so I'm practicing speaking what I want and everything, and it comes at such great cost. You know, like that cost makes me really, really sad, like down to the core, sad and insecure. And it's so counterintuitive. It's so hard for my body. It's kind of like my head see the possibilities and want to go there, and the rest of me, from my heart down, just sink into the deep sadness of like, oh my gosh, you are going to rip away all the security and the what I call love, you know, that I have set up for all these years, you know. So that's really tough.
It is, and how lucky are you that you get the full expression of life, the lows and the highs. Like, you know, depending all on how you look at it. You know, is it really bad? Or, you know, I think of, you know, the hardest times and the most painful times in my life are the times I've learned my greatest lessons. And I come from the belief that, you know, pain is our greatest teacher. And you know, the Buddhists say two things cause pain. One is craving for something you don't have, and an aversion, avoidance. But if we get back to craving, you know, I think sometimes, you know, we can get what we want, but I don't know that we can have it on our clock. You know, because when you're dealing with another person, you know, people heal at their own speed, and they come to things at their own speed and their own time. And so I think staying in the tension, we do these things called intensives. We're in a room with a couple for 6 to 8 hours instead of week after week. And the reason we do that is because you get to stay in the tension. You know, you get in the first 45 minutes or an hour, and stuff starts to bubble. But when it comes to the top, that's when real growth, I think, really starts to happen. So it's about staying in the tension, not only with your partner, but with yourself too.
Yeah, and it's that loving the human journey, you know,
Absolutely.
Like this is wild and crazy and messy, and you don't get to make yourself wrong, and you don't get to make your partner wrong.
That's it.
That's it, you know, and it's just like. Go ahead,
Isn't it,
Pat.
May, just incredibly enlivening, though, when you're in that space, when you're staying true to it? I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
You know, we can all of us can sit here and say that, but let me tell you, when my relationship breaks apart, or when I break my relationship apart, I do not have these kind of rational conversations.
That's because you're having the conversation with yourself.
I usually start swearing.
Yeah, I totally
process.
get the sadness part, though. That's what it is. There's a huge, vein of sadness in it.
Yeah, totally.
And there's a huge vein of sadness when you realize that someone isn't I think Chris said earlier, what is important to her is important to me.
Yeah.
I think that there's a huge vein of sadness when you get to a point in a relationship and you realize that is not true for your partner.
Yeah.
And then there's a huge sadness where you realize that is true for her, and you get it, and yet you don't have it to give it to her. That's another layer of, oh my God, and how and usually people suffer in silence when they get to that place, and they just kill themselves, and then they kill the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Anyway,
everything goes unconscious at that point, and you tap into kind of a survival mode. Yeah. And you're not unattached. You're not open.
Speaking of all that, we have about 9 minutes left, so I want to just say that time for you guys to share the beautiful work that you're doing with your clients, and let us know about your work. Pat, would you like to go first?
Sure. Well, I've been, as I mentioned earlier, I've been working with permanent weight loss for about 12 years, and I've worked with a lot of food addicts and a lot of various types of dysfunction with food. I've begun in the last few years to work a lot with female energy and really helping my female clients, realize that the whole diet game is such a male energy approach to weight, and it's one of the reasons why they fail over and over. So I've got some great classes on what I call Divine Goddess Weight Loss, which has a whole component to it, to accepting, your sexuality and your sexual needs, and really starting to get honest about how that's playing into, whatever dysfunction you might be having with your food relationship. Our food relationship often mirrors our other relationships. So that's the type of work that I've been doing. I work with male clients as well, but the interesting thing is that I find that most of my male clients who are interested in making big changes are working a lot with their female energy. They're very conflicted over their female energy. So that's really how my work has been deepening and opening and growing in the last 3 or 4 years, is helping people really come home to themselves and learn to care for themselves on a very deep level, which I think goes way beyond some of the superficial ways that we work with weight in our society.
Yeah. Awesome, Pat. Thank you. That's so intriguing, this whole masculine energy over weight loss versus feminine energy over weight loss.
Right.
Who knew?
Yeah.
How about you guys, Julie and Chris?
Go ahead, Julie.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thank you. So the work that I do, I work primarily either in group or one-on-one with women that are kind of baffled about their relationships with their guy, or maybe they've just come out of a relationship and they're trying to pick up the pieces and find them themselves. I work a lot around women that are very much in their masculine energy and presenting with the plotter, the planner, the doer, very strong, powerful, but dominant women, and it doesn't work for them in their relationships. And so I work with them to just show them different ways, embodiment ways of being more in their feminine, in order for them to have the relationships that they say that they want. And I also work with Chris doing couples programs and that as well. So Chris can speak to that.
Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome.
So, and I, like Julie, I said, usually work with, well, not usually, I work with mostly the men. And it's interesting because usually by the time they've come in, they're feeling, and most of them are in relationship or the relationship isn't going so well. they'll say things like, I'm feeling, she emasculates me, and so we have to get through that. She can't do that. She can't do that to you. So I work a lot with, men who are really, connected with their feminine side, but not so much with their masculine side. And I always say, if your mission in life as a man needs to be masculine, but you need to have access to your feminine side, or else it'd be really difficult for you to.
I'm going to help you out here, Chris, because I think we need to translate that a little bit. What I think you mean by that is like, how as a man nowadays you've been so trained to be the good guys, the nice guys.
The nice guys.
The nice guy that,
not ruffle anybody's feathers.
That's
Don't
right.
say anything wrong. Be politically correct.
Carry your wife's purse when she goes to the bathroom because you're so attentive, and then you just can't make a decision because you just wonder if your wife is happy or not. That's the feminine man.
And the only thing he can find in her purse, which he shouldn't be going in anyway, is his balls. Right?
Yeah.
So it's all about them redefining what masculine is for them, and what's getting in the way of them, of them honoring it and living it. And I think success is living your life the way you want to live it, with no excuses.
Yeah.
So it's all. Yeah.
And we love you guys. I mean, like, I want to just speak for all the women. It's like we so love and appreciate you for all the nice thing that you've been doing for us. And we want you to, like, have your balls back, have your manhood back. And we want to get off this stupid chair that we got on that we, dominated you, because it doesn't work for us and it doesn't work for you.
Well, good. So don't give them their balls back. Let them earn them back.
Oh, there you go.
Okay? Don't give them back. Let them go get them.
I'll just leave them on the stool.
That men rise
back away from the
thing.
stool.
Keep them up. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I just so love and adore all the men and women out there who are struggling with themselves, their relationship and everything. I get it. I get that journey, like I walk it every day, and I wreck the whole marriage so that I can really understand what the hell is going on here. Oh, shoot. Anyway, thank you so much, you guys, for being here and bringing your wisdom and your experience and your personal story to share with us. I so look forward to the next conversation that we come up together.
Thanks so much for having me, May.
Thank you,
You're
May.
welcome. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, May. Thank you very
Julie.
much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone, and I look forward to bringing you the next conversation. Oh, the next conversation that I'm working on is with a woman named Nikki, and we are going to talk about why you need a mistress. Ha ha. Controversial. Here we go. Have a great week.
You too, May. Bye.
Bye.